Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Jared Grebner Show. This is Scott Kerker, along with Benamor head coach Jared Grebner. Coach, last week was homecoming, big game. Pekin Dragons came to town. A very good program last year. They made it to the quarterfinals. They come in at 1-4, but they were kind of playing for their playoff lives for one thing. The other thing is they're a big school who are always going to bring talent, and you have to play a good football game to beat them, regardless of where they're at, record-wise, or anything. Your kids came out, kind of sent a message, kind of set the tone early. It was a big play from the very beginning.
Yeah, and that was huge for us. I think that pass Nick threw to Connor Bidney was was right on the money. And once he caught it in stride, Connor was able to do the rest, and that kind of set the tone, gave our guys some confidence, and that was huge moving forward.
We talked to your offensive coordinator, Nick Dolinsky, before the game, and he said it was going to be really important to get off to a quick start. I don't know if you could get off to a quicker start than on the first play from scrimmage. You went 79 yards on a little slant pattern to Bidney, and he scored a touchdown on the very first play of the game. Great way to start a game. Like I said, you set the tone early. The other thing I thought, which was very, very important, was you did throw the ball a little bit here and there, and but you got into a groove where you found a play that worked, and you just kept running it and running it and running it. And Pekin had no answer for that. Evan Kyle and Jadon Cranford were the beneficiaries of really good play calling and really good line play.
Yeah, and when you have two guys both go over 150 yards, that's a testament to the offensive line, the tight ends and the wings that are blocking for them up front. It's a testament to our offensive staff, to putting those guys in positions to continually make plays for us. We always say it's not always going to be perfect. Make that next play, and those guys did. They just fought for one another out there. They made the next play, and that offensive line kind of put the team on its back a little bit on Friday night, and they led us down the field time and time again.
We'll talk a little bit more about the offensive line play later on in the show, but I thought the emergence of Evan Kyle to go along with Jadon Cranford has really been beneficial for your football team. It just seemed the more the game wore on, the more Kyle just kept getting stronger and stronger, and he's so quick through the hole. It was just I thought he had just an outstanding football game. And
when you have a tandem like that, it definitely helps. They can keep each other fresh. Jadon's assumed a little bit more defensive role as well, and so keeping him fresh and having Evan spell him a little bit, is always a good thing. It's always nice when those two can carry the load. Didn't have to run Nick a whole lot Friday. He's a very good runner, more than capable of getting the job done, but it just wasn't needed that night. We were utilizing his arm well, and he put us in some good spots and some nice slant patterns to Kendrick. Of course, we've already talked to Bidney, do another nice fade to Shaffern. That just seems like we could echo that every week. And so having those two to rely on has been nothing but a positive for us. And then, man, probably the biggest smile of the night might have been Cam Nickel, and he got it. And that was just after one carry. He got 2 carries, his first 2 of the year, and man, as just a kid in a candy store after getting 2 carries, and so you could even add him in the mix a little bit.
Yeah, I think his first carry went for about 14 yards, and the second carry went for about 2 or 3, but you're averaging almost 8 yards a carry. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, I think he'll take that. But the good thing is about all of the players is they don't care about those stat lines. What they care about is really one stat, and that's just the team getting a win and the team doing well and the team performing as good as it possibly can.
There were 3 plays I thought were really big. I thought, of course, the play to start the game, the slant to Bidney that got you the touchdown. And then I thought another play that was really big for you was the interception by Jadon, where he kind of baited their quarterback into throwing that little out pattern to the Pekin receiver. I don't know if he really did it, but it looked like he baited him into doing that. It looked like he baited him later on in the game to throw a pass, and it was the guy ended up just overthrowing everybody. But had it been a catchable ball, I think Jadon intercepts it. That was I think in the second half, early in the second half. So those were the first two big plays. And then the other big play I thought was really big for Metamora. You had a 2nd and 40.
It was long.
Late in the second quarter. And so, you took advantage of the advantage that you have. You have a quarterback that can throw the ball really well downfield, and you have a 6'4" wide receiver that knows how to go up and get a rebound. He basically went up and high-pointed a pass that was outstanding. It was pretty good coverage. The Pekin kid had really good coverage on him. He went up and out-jumped him and got a pass. I think it ended up being about a 44-yard pass play for a first down. And at that point, I think we were only up 14-0, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I don't honestly remember what the score was at that moment.
But that just took the wind out of Pekin's sails, because you got a team 2nd and 40. You hold them. They punt, regardless of what you do in the rest of that half. They get the ball to start the second half. It's only 14-0. Things could have been a lot different. I thought that really kind of cemented what we were going to do for the rest of the game.
Yeah. And every game kind of has those backbreaker kind of moments. And that was one thing that we talked about earlier, was one, getting off to a fast start, because two, their playoff lives are on the line. And you don't want to let anybody play with house money, because once they start getting a little confidence, and things can just start rolling, and you can get on a roll, and that's just a whole different animal that you don't want to get a hold of. And so when you have chances like that to kind of impose your will and make sure that when you got them down, you keep them down, that's always very important.
Right. And you talk about the momentum factor in that, and you don't want to, when you get the momentum, you don't want to lose it. And I think by and large this year, with the exception of maybe 2 games, you guys have gotten control of the game and kept the momentum. Also, the very first game of the year against Sterling, there was about a 4-minute stretch where Sterling got some momentum and scored like 2 quick touchdowns. But other than that, you guys have been the more physical team. You guys have played with momentum, and you guys have, I think, offensively and defensively, you guys have played very, very physical.
And that's one thing that we keep trying to continually improve on, is just pad levels, footwork, tackling, and the kids have been working hard at it. That's one thing that they know is really the name of the game in football is blocking and tackling. You're going to have to be able to do all of that in order to be successful, and they've been honing their craft for a long time now, since the summer. This crew has together, and it's starting to pay off.
You've had some injuries. Your son Avery's been out for now 2 weeks, and Gavin O'Loughlin has been out, and Mark Fredericks has been out, and you've been able to plug and play. I think that Wes McNeil has done an outstanding job. Number 4, coming in, playing at linebacker. Last week, we don't keep track of tackles, but I think he had somewhere around 5 or 6 tackles.
He had 5 tackles. He had one real nice one where he just ran the hole, plugged the running back, and about 2 yards behind. He actually led us in tackles for a loss. He had 2 tackles for a loss, and so he's stepped up. He's a kid that continuously learns. Make sure that he always does his job, and he's a guy that we're excited to see him continually grow as he becomes more comfortable.
Then I believe it's AJ Stone that's been coming in on offense as the H-back a little bit for Gavin O'Loughlin. And I think he's done a pretty nice
Yeah.
job.
And AJ, we always just call him the Swiss Army knife of the football team. He'll go wherever you want him to, and he'll know exactly what to do. He filled in for Gavin 1 week over at Canton, actually.
On defense.
On defense. He's played our H-back whenever we need him to as well. And so he's kind of solidified him as our utility guy. I think he likes that role. Being able to do all things, being a jack of all trades out there, and frankly, football teams and a lot of teams, even in baseball, you see utility guys being used. You need guys like that that can play multiple positions.
And then McNeil's come in and played linebacker and done an outstanding job. So those have been your 3 guys that you've filled in. And like you said, injuries are inevitable in football, and to have guys that can fill in and be good is that's a sign of a team that's going to be pretty good at the end of the year. And every week I see you guys just getting a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. You're setting yourself up for a big showdown at the end of the year. We'll see where Dunlap is in the mix. It's going to be playing for some playoff seeding with both teams, and I think that we've got them at our place, and we'll kind of see where that all kind of pans out. Dunlap's got some tough games before us, and you've got Limestone this week and East Pure next week. So even though those teams are a little down, you still got to come out and play hard.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of times, week in and week out, we always say it's about us. What can we do to get better? Whether it's pass rush, whether it's pass blocking, whether it's working on combo blocks, whatever it might be. Man-to-man coverage, there's things that we can always work on to improve, and so it's about us. What can we do to get better? And that's just only going to show on Friday nights.
I thought, the one thing Pekin has kind of prided themselves on the last few years is that they've been very strong, and I thought their offensive line had nice size, and they played a pretty good game. I thought your defensive line though matched up with them pretty well. Ty Dykes and Adam Sloan. Then when you bring in 57,
Kevin Barker, Samba Goal,
those guys I thought did an outstanding job of neutralizing that strength and never let Pekin really get into a groove blocking wise. I thought they kind of won those battles in the trenches.
And that's one thing we've been kind of harping on those guys day in and day out. Just about pad level, about movement, about proper fits and gaps, and where their eyes need to be, and jams. And they've heard it 1,000 times, and but they're really starting to feel comfortable. And when you can feel comfortable, you can feel confident. And when you're confident, you just play well. And those guys are starting to really play well. And sometimes those guys are the unsung heroes of the defense, because sometimes they're just keeping linebackers clean,
yes.
So they can make plays. Adam Sloan, I don't know how many times in a game or throughout the year, he's going to be double teamed at nose. And for the most part, he holds his ground, keeps his pad level low, and continues to force the double team. And so, when you have things like that, some of the things that they do don't stuff the stat sheet, but they don't necessarily make the tackle, but they make the play based on what they do up front for us.
When you talk about defensive linemen that just do nothing but create piles, the one guy that I always think of is the guy that you played with back in '96. He's passed away, but Stephen Fisher. Yep. I believe he made all conference.
Oh, yeah.
And didn't have maybe 9 tackles all year.
He did a great job for us. Back in the day, that was on a pretty good defense itself, and and he was right up front center, right over top of the ball, and those guys like that, are kind of glue guys that you always need.
Yep. And he was, and that's who I think of when you mention that. And you've got a couple of those kind of guys. Adam Sloan doesn't make a lot of tackles, but you see Cam Nickel making tackles. You see McNeil making tackles. When your linebackers are making tackles, that means the guys up front are doing their job.
Yes.
And I think your linebackers have led your team in tackles just about every game, haven't they?
Yep. Cam has quite a bit. Brad Shaw has, and so it's always right in that second level crew that's leading us in tackles. And I think Ty Dykes did one game off the top of my head. So every now and then you'll get those anomalies, but for the most part, it's those second level guys that sometimes get the stats, but it's because of the dirty work done up front.
Yeah. Anybody on that front, or anybody on your team right now that has been a little bit of a surprise that you think, we're getting production out of him? There's one guy that I can think of that when I would talk to you over the summer and during the spring and during the winter last year, you never mentioned this kid, but he's kind of established himself as a guy that's in your rotation on defense.
Who are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking of number 57,
Kevin Barker.
Kevin Barker. Yes. You guys never mentioned him. He doesn't start, but he plays, and he's had a really, really good year.
He has. He comes in. He spells Sam, as he goes both ways. He's one of those guys that just is always in the weight room. Just works to make himself better. He's probably not the type of kid that's going to wow you, with speed or with height or anything like that. But he just plays with a really high motor, which can make up for a lot of things, and with a lot of technique. Sometimes because of the lack of height, sometimes that can benefit you a little bit because you're playing with good pad level. You're never going to be really too tall.
Right.
You're just naturally playing low and playing with good levers. And he just continues to find himself the right spot and continues to earn himself more and more playing time as the year goes on.
Has he been a little bit of a surprise for you guys, or did you see that coming?
No. You just don't know how going from the JV level to the varsity level, how anybody's going to transition to that. But he's continued to work day in and day out. And so it's hard to keep a guy, on the sideline that continues to improve like he has.
Yeah, it's for sure. And offensively, all those guys. And a lot of people, you talk to that, just come to the games. They didn't go to the JV games last year, and they keep saying, well, Evan Kyle, where did he come from? But for those of us, I do the chains. And for those of us who were at every game last year, that's not a surprise.
No. There was a guy his freshman year played tight end and wanted to try running back a little bit, and we gave him a shot, and by golly, things turned out. And it's been a long time since I met more running backs probably carried the ball 26 times, I think is what it was the other night. Coach Stolinski was talking about that the other day. Normally it's always like 15, then another guy has 12, and then maybe another guy has 9. But he toted the rock for us 26 times. A lot of them on that last drive where he had about 10 in a row, and he just kept his legs churning, and he's never an easy down.
No, and he gets through that hole so quick. He's deceptively quick. I never last year. I never saw anybody catch him from behind, and he's also not the biggest guy in the world. But you never saw anybody bring him down on a solo tackle. Even Washington, it took a group of guys to bring him down.
Yeah. He's a strong kid. He's always going to keep his legs churning. And he has developed and made himself into a good running back.
You sit right now at 4-2, and you're 2-2 in the Mid-Atlantic Conference. You're setting yourself up pretty well. I mean, you rebounded from the gauntlet you had there, second or the third and fourth weeks of the season, but you're past those now, and it's nice to see your team could have folded. A lot of teams could have folded, but they're playing with a lot of pride, and you're setting yourself up to have a really nice season.
And we just keep taking it one game at a time. These guys, enjoy being around one another. They enjoy playing with one another. And coming down this home stretch, we're in the last third of the season. It goes by fast, and so we just got to continue to make the most of every game and every opportunity that we have.
Why don't we we'll take a break here in just a few minutes. I want to thank the Germantown Grille for, again, hosting the Jared Grebner Show. It's very nice of them. And When we come back, we'll have the MTCO, or excuse me, the Germantown Grille players of the game.
Central Illinois, you asked for it and we listened. Germantown Grille is growing to meet customer demand, adding more dining space and a private gaming area featuring games powered by Gold Rush, the gold standard in video gaming. And Germantown Grille still has all the food and spirits that keep our customers coming back. Stop by to check out our daily specials. The game's on at Germantown Grille, where Central Illinois loves to eat. Open 7 days a week, just off Route 116.
Welcome back to the Jared Grebner Show, Coach. We had quite a few guys we could have named as the player of the game. Evan Kyle had a great game. I thought Jadon Cranford, both offensively and defensively, had a really good game. But we went with your offensive line. Your offensive line, those are 5 guys that are kind of unsung. You know the guys. You know Nick Rhodes. You know Cranford. You know all those guys that carry the ball. Shafran, they catch. Bidney catches the ball. But not many people can name your 5 offensive linemen.
And that's the thing. Between Landon Cowper, Caden Kiefer, Boston Cox, Alex Lane, and Ty Dykes, those guys have done a tremendous job for us. When those guys get going and they gel with one another, the offense gets going. Everything depends on those 5. And the sad thing is, it's not on Friday nights, over the PA system. It'd be pretty hard to spot, and say, hey, pancake by number so-and-so. It's always, carry by, number 1 or number 10 or whoever it might be. But those guys up front are the unsung heroes. They really are. And so their headlines are anytime a running back gets a headline, because they know that's because of them. And when you can have 2 guys rush for a combined over 300 yards, that says a lot to them and the work that they've done up front. And just the little things, like even the Boston Cox at center, just calling out the blocking schemes and making sure everybody's on the same page. And it's just little stuff like that that makes the engine go. And Coach Otto has done a tremendous job with those guys. He has a lot of fun with them. But most importantly, those guys have improved from June to July to August, and they're still improving day in and day out. And there's 3 of those guys that were returning between Boston, Ty, and Alex. And so they took on the left side of the line between Caden and Landon. Those are the new guys in there starting this year. And they kind of took them under their wings, kind of showed them the ropes. And, those guys have come a long way, and they've done a spectacular job for us.
And it's nice having 3 guys come back, like you did. That kind of paves the way a little bit. They've got a little experience, and it's really starting to show now a little bit. Those guys are going to be important when you get to postseason.
Yeah. When you start developing that experience and start gelling up front, like I said, good things happen. There's always going to be times here and there where you're going to miss a block, miss an assignment. Sometimes, let's face it, the defense just has a good play call on and they slant the right way, and so you're going to have ups and downs, and those guys are starting to understand that and say, hey, next play, that one's behind us, let's learn from it and let's just go on, because there's nothing we can do about it now. And those guys continue to get better with their pad level, they continue to get better with their footwork, and they've kind of started to take this team and put them on their shoulders and say, hey, it's our job up front to get us going.
You play a Limestone team that I believe has 1 win this year so far.
Correct.
And but they're still a dangerous team because, like you said before, they're better than they were last year. In high school football, anything can happen on a given Friday. But you have them at our place, which is a nice thing.
Yep, it's always nice to be at home. When you play against them, the one thing that they always do, no matter what their record is, week in and week out, and it goes back to last year's, those guys play with pride. They play hard no matter what. You watch them on tape, and that always stands out is that those guys continue to play. And because the one thing about you look at maybe some other teams, some other high schools or whatever it might be, those guys have a tendency to, it's almost like a here we go again mentality, where these guys continue to play hard and they're going to get their money's worth, and so we're going to have to come out and continue to get better. And as always, we want to be at our best and keep the momentum going. We always got to take that step forward.
Nice to be playing well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It sure beats week 3 and week 4. You're kind of walking around, just thoughts continually go through your mind about what we could do better. How can we get better as a team? Those thoughts still go through your mind, but at least you have a smile on your face while you're thinking of it.
And I think you've rebounded really well. You've taken a negative, 2 losses, and you've turned them into positives because the kids clearly have learned from those 2 losses.
And you're going to learn from losses. You're going to learn from wins. I think sometimes your learning experience sinks in a little bit more after losses. But regardless, I think the kids, of course, are very coachable. They want to get better. They want to see their teammates succeed. And when you have that at day in and day out, at practice and in games, and they're playing for one another, that's always a good thing.
Well, Coach, we'll let you get going here, but congratulations on being 4-2. Look forward to seeing you Friday night at Malone Field.
Thank you.